Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're unpacking this really fundamental psychological mystery that affects absolutely every single one of us every single day. And that is exactly why bad news beats good news literally every single time. It's this wild phenomenon that dictates how we feel, how we react, and honestly, how we remember our entire lives. Have you ever noticed that you can get, say, 10 glowing compliments on something, but that one tiny offhand piece of criticism is the exact thing keeping you wide awake staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m.? Well, we're going to decode the fascinating science and the evolutionary biology behind this deeply frustrating reality.
So, why can you remember a single awkward thing you said at a party way back in 2014, but you have absolutely no idea what you had for lunch last Tuesday? Seriously, think about it for a second. You're lying in bed, just minding your own business, and out of nowhere, your brain decides to replay that incredibly embarrassing moment. Maybe it was a completely botched handshake or an ill-timed joke, and it plays it in horrifying, high-definition surround sound. Yet that perfectly pleasant turkey sandwich you ate just a few days ago, totally erased from your mental hard drive. It kind of feels like our brains are actively trolling us, right? Well, to understand why it does this, we need to look at a super relatable modern scenario. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at a situation I like to call the commute that ruins your day. I want you to picture a totally solid Tuesday. You've got a completely normal, traffic-free commute, you enjoy a pretty decent lunch, you sit through a highly productive meeting, and you even have a genuinely nice chat with a coworker by the coffee machine. Now add in 5 more perfectly positive moments to that list. For 9 straight hours, your day is an absolute success. You're racking up win after win, pleasantry after pleasantry. Your brain is collecting all this great data, and by all logical metrics, you're having a fantastic Tuesday. But then, something happens. Boom. One rude email hits your inbox at 4 p.m. A colleague sends a passive-aggressive note. Maybe a client complains, or your boss is just incredibly blunt. Suddenly, poof, the previous 9 hours of joy and productivity just vanish. They're instantly wiped out. That night, when you walk through your front door and someone asks you, hey, how was your day? What do you actually say? You definitely don't mention the smooth commute, the good lunch, or that friendly chat. Nope. The rude email becomes the one and only headline. You immediately report that you had a terrible day. The other 9 hours don't even make the highlight reel. A single jarring event completely erases an entire day full of wins. So, if bad news, bad comments, and bad moments can hijack our attention this easily, we have to ask, what gives negativity this massive, frankly unfair advantage in our brain? Why is our internal scale tipped so heavily toward the negative? To answer this, we actually need to stop looking at the modern office environment and start looking backward, like way, way backward. We need to look at the source code of human evolution to see how this unfair advantage got programmed into us in the very first place. To really get this, we've got to do a little survival math from the perspective of our ancient ancestors. Think about it this way. Missing a good berry patch simply costs you a snack. I mean, it's a missed opportunity, sure, but you'll live. But missing a predator? That costs you your life. Game over. Our brains evolved in these incredibly harsh, unforgiving environments where threats were absolutely lethal and rewards, like a tasty berry, were, well, just nice-to-haves. Evolution, as it turns out, is deeply asymmetric. An ancestor who massively overreacted to a rustling bush, assuming it was a hungry tiger when it was really just the wind, that guy survived to pass on his genes. The ancestor who casually shrugged off those warning signs, yeah, they didn't make it. So the human brain built in a permanent hardwired overweighting toward danger. When that rustling bush happens, your brain doesn't just sit back and casually analyze the situation, it fires a massive, instantaneous alarm. Your heart rate spikes, adrenaline absolutely floods your system, your muscles tense up. You are instantly primed for fight or flight. This intense, nerve-wracking response is exactly what kept humans alive for millennia. But here's the totally wild part about all of this. We are still running that exact same biological software right now, today, while casually sitting at our air-conditioned office desks. So the absolutely crucial point here is the sheer speed of this reaction. Before your conscious, logical brain, the prefrontal cortex, even finishes reading the words in a bad email, your amygdala, which is your brain's primitive threat detection center, has already sounded the alarm. The alarm system reacts instantly. Logical thinking comes second. And that is exactly why a piece of criticism physically lands in your gut, making you feel sick or anxious, literally milliseconds before you've even consciously parsed the words on your screen. Your brain answered the question, is this dangerous, way before it actually finished reading the sentence. And this brings us to a really crucial rule of human biology.
Your brain doesn't file memories equally. It VIPs the painful ones. It's not just about the initial speed of your gut reaction, it's about how that event gets stored for the long haul. Emotionally negative events get consolidated into your memory far more vividly and durably than neutral or positive ones. This happens because that intense emotional arousal, that massive flood of stress chemicals, strongly engages your memory-related brain regions. Your brain basically flags the negative event with a giant neon sign that says, "Remember this, it might kill you next time." And that right there is exactly why you can recall that embarrassing 2014 party moment in agonizing detail, but that perfectly fine Tuesday lunch is just gone forever. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the twist in our entire story. Here is the uncomfortable truth. This negativity bias isn't a broken glitch, it's a feature, and it's working exactly as designed. The problem isn't the software, the problem is the environment. We're walking around running Stone Age software built to dodge immediate physical threats, but we're feeding it smartphone era data. We're giving it rude emails, bad online reviews, and endless doom scrolling on social media. The input changed drastically over the last few decades, but our internal alarm system didn't change at all. We're basically trying to run a high-speed internet connection through a primitive, cave-dwelling router. Your brain is desperately trying to protect you from being eaten, but it's reacting to a passive-aggressive memo from HR. Which brings us to the ultimate question for this explainer, and something for you to really chew on. Now that you know your brain is running Stone Age software, how are you going to stop it from glitching on your next rude email?